He's going to have his hands full again on March 2nd when he tries to take Jon Jones into his first new title defense against Anthony Smith. Coach Mike Winklejohn is here. Hi, Coach. How are you?
Hey, look, I'm good. I'm great. I had my hand full again. I was going to try to eat a burrito with you early. So there you go.
Sorry about that. I won't keep you too long for your burrito. Hey, first of all, let me say this. Congratulations on the win over Alexander Gustafson. Did that go basically according to plan?
A lot of it. You know, I actually, I had thought maybe by the third round we would have worn him down a little bit. But, you know, Jon got in there, got that takedown a little bit sooner than I had thought we would. And once Jon gets on top of somebody, it's they almost always turn and because they don't want the bloody mess from the elbows, and it played out the way we thought.
You know, one of the most underrated aspects of Jon, it occurs to me, is his ground and pound. In part because we don't see it as much these days. We used to see it a lot more, I suppose, I don't know, back in the Brandon Vera days or something. But the way his arms whip into position, it's frightening.
Oh, yeah, he throws. That's Greg Jackson's specialty there. My little brother is all about the ground and pound and throwing things at different angles. And Jon can roll the elbows. So it's just scary because he can come in so many different directions at you, kind of like he does standing up. It's always a bloody mess.
By the way, did you watch that Cat Zingano and who was it? Cat Zingano and Megan Anderson with the toe in the eye?
Oh, yeah. I immediately went, oh, shit. You know, I hope her eyeball was closed. So thank goodness. It looked like it cut the outside of her eye and didn't catch the eyeball. So, or else she got winked.
Yeah, so for folks who may not know, you had an eye injury from what, holding pads? Is that the idea?
Yeah, you know, fought forever, you know, for forever, but never had something like that. But holding pads, somebody pulled my arm down. I was paying attention to where his footwork was at, and his toenail went across my eyeball and cut it in half. And make a long story short, I'm blind now.
In that one eye?
In that eye. Yeah.
Are you,
so it kind of worked.
Are you allowed to drive?
Absolutely. I drive all the time. Yeah, backing up trailers kind of sucks depth perception wise, but other than that, it's great. I still hold mitts, but I do. I have that mapped real well, and it hasn't slowed me down. What can you do?
Yeah. Is there any way to prevent that kind of thing?
Well, I wear goggles now when I'm holding mitts. I know it sounds stupid. I look really dorky, but you know, fool me once is the way I look at it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so as I mentioned, I wanted to get you on because I thought that Jon's performance over Alexander Gustafson was phenomenal. Well, you said most things went according to plan. What deviated a little bit?
Well, just the time on it. You know what? I thought we were going to have to pressure a little bit more. I thought Gustafson was going to give space, but he put some pressure on us, and Jon went back to a little bit longer space, moving away a little bit, kind of waiting for Gustafson, and then doing what we wanted to do, which was break his legs down, break him down with hard kicks to the body and to the legs to make it hard for him to move in on us and get to that boxing range, and then eventually make it harder for him to defend the takedowns.
Jon's boxing appears to be massively improved. Now, he's an interesting fighter, right? Because I was looking at tape on him. I'm not saying he doesn't throw combinations, but he doesn't throw a lot of combinations. He has like really interesting timing on these single shots, and they come from so many different areas. But the accuracy of his punches and then the range, even moving backwards, it's super, super accurate. When do you feel like he turned a corner in terms of his boxing?
You know what? His striking as a whole is just starting to evolve more and more and more. There's no doubt about it. It's all about being more comfortable in those ranges, just time and repetition. You know, Jon was really more of a wrestler when he first started, but I feel he's turned into the best striker in the game because he's so unpredictable. And I think his kicks have gotten so much harder and so much better that now people worry about the kicks so much that the hands start playing out. So I think it all goes together.
Yeah. What does he do that most other strikers don't in your mind?
Attack from many different angles, good eyes. He reads his opponent. He kind of knows what his opponent's going to do before his opponent does it because he watches so much fight tape. He's got a real high IQ when it comes to fighting and studying his opponent. He knows what they're going to do. I think sometimes before they know what they're going to do, because I'm not sure if they understand the patterns they have as much as Jon does.
I am told that he is a voracious watcher of tape in the gym. Sounds like what you're telling me is that's true.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Boy, sometimes he'll want to watch stuff in slow motion, which is like death for us sometimes because we have things to do. Yeah, he watches a tremendous amount of film. We all do as a team. and sit down and break it down and get together, as a group and start looking for different ideas and start listening to each other as far as that's a good idea. That's a good way to do it. And nobody argues about their ways, the best ways. It's as a group as a whole. We've got such a good group of guys that coach together that I think that helps Jon out quite a bit.
How rare is that dynamic where you have a fighter who is fully engaged on tape, fully engaged on thinking through tactics, as well as a team that facilitates that? Is that? I mean, in boxing, that sounds pretty common. Feels like in MMA, that's a little less common.
I think it's a little less common for a lot of reasons, but the gym as a whole, that's what I've tried to do is bring it back to where everybody's helping each other out that much more. And Jon's that guy. I mean, he'll help out anybody walking in the door. So that rubs off because he's willing to help. I think the other coaches want to help him even more. And everybody checks their ego and just helps each other. And we learn a lot from each other and from each other's eyes.
All right, so he's taking on Anthony Smith. Size up Anthony Smith for me from your vantage point.
Yeah, tough. Just big balls. Just keep going. He has been able to come back. I think the scariest thing about him is just that. It's just as you saw in his last fight with Volkan. It's he was behind in my mind type of thing, but he knows how to survive and then find the right time to do something. I think he started hurting him with body shots, and then, of course, he had the takedown there at the end. But I think it's his ability, his mental toughness to survive and overcome that's his greatest strength.
Okay, in terms of threats that he offers any opponent, but in particular Jon, when you identify his threats, besides the durability, what would you say they are?
Well, he's good at a lot of things. You know what? It's definitely his long range punches. Problem with that, the crux of that is he's got Jon, who's even longer. He has the ability to throw punches at different times. His straight right hand, I think, is really, really effective, especially in his counter mode against Jon. That's what I'm worried about. And then, of course, he can take people down. There's no doubt about it. I just think he's going to have a hard night with Jon Jones because I think Jon's better everywhere. But I think it's his boxing skills that if I thought anything was going to be scary, it would be that. He's definitely great everywhere. And so we have to be on our toes. But he's got to deal with Jon's length and Jon's ability to adapt.
Can I follow up on that ability to adapt? That is one thing that I have noticed from him that appears to be quite interesting. You go back and you watch the Cormier and the Gustafson, the first of those fights. He's a different fighter from the first to the fifth round. If you're going to beat Jon Jones, you have to take away that ability to adapt. How do you do that? How do you take away that from a guy? You have to be all over him, right?
Yeah, you'd have to be all over him making Jon react to you, but that's why Jon fights with long-range shots one at a time. He's consistently hitting people like we were talking about before, where they're reacting to him. So he's always the leader. What we learned from the first fight with Gustafson was actually you brought it out in one of your things that you did as far as breaking down the fights. You came to the genius thing in that you saw that Gustafson was trying to punch through Jon's kicks. In the first fight, Jon wasn't kicking hard. And that's something that I definitely wanted to change for this fight. And Jon did. But Jon learns from the past, and he goes, okay, don't do that again. We had to think about what Gustafson was doing in this fight and how to be one step ahead of his thought process.
Now, what's interesting, I got to tell you, I love it that Jon's coming right back for a lot of reasons. Just selfishly, a champion defending his title, even if people feel like the contenders are overmatched, I don't care. I just like a champion who's active and really gives that opportunity to those contenders. So for me, I'm all in on that. But from your vantage point, do you like the quick turnaround?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? It keeps Jon in the gym. He's focused more than ever. We used to have quite a few fights, then things slowed down a little bit. We had all these dumb little suspensions, which is kind of irritating itself. And thank God Dana White's got balls to do the right thing. But with that being said, I like the quick turnaround, and I think it's good for Jon getting back in the gym, keep developing those skills, and stay on the top of his game.
I had heard that Jon had sort of like a boxer approach where these boxers, they come up boxing from their youth. So by the time they reach full adulthood, they don't have to constantly be in the gym. They have these camps and they sort of peak. They might stay in shape, but they don't like just hardcore train all the time. And then Jon was kind of doing that. Like, I guess the question I would ask is realistically, how much better could he get if he maintained a steady gym presence unobstructed by God knows whatever?
I think you get a lot better. Again, he needs those distractions. Everybody does in life, so you don't get burnt out on whatever you're doing. But it's the constant repetition that I think will help him out even more. He does a lot of reps already, but that's where we're going to start getting those one punch, one kick knockouts. I think that's where they're going to start coming, and the proper timing on his takedowns. So the constant reps will definitely help. There's no doubt about it. But everybody needs distractions, because otherwise you find yourself getting kind of lazy with your training a little bit, and kind of complacent. But Jon's all in. He's fired up, and that's the difference with Jon. When he does train, he trains hard. He shows up on time. He works his butt off. He stays late, and he trains harder than anybody else in the gym.
What was fight week like with all the craziness from your vantage point?
On the outside, it looked like Jon was enjoying it. I didn't get there Friday. I'm that guy. The other coaches, I got a great team of guys that go in and they can do it all in themselves. They quite a bit. They were there for the day-to-day antics, but yeah, it was. He did a good job.
So you've reached the peak coach status where you get to show up just for the fight, and then you don't have to worry about all the other madness.
You know what? I've always done that. You know, sometimes I get in trouble with that, but maybe I'm a jerk. But here's the deal: they have a lot of guys in the gym. So if I was to spend the whole week with somebody at the fights, and the next week do that, I would never be able to train the fighters behind the scenes. So I've always been the guy that has stayed behind. You know, while the other guys were they got plenty of conferences that can do those type of things.
Before we let you go, I really appreciate your time here. The notion of moving up to heavyweight, it seems like it's inevitable. But let me ask it in this way. If you had total say, if you had control over this process, which we know Jon's his own guy, when would you advise a move to heavyweight?
Not right away. Honestly, I would just say wipe out this light heavyweight division. Just stay on top. Just stay active and show your greatness out there, because I think Jon already is the best pound for pound of all time in the sport, and I think he's got a lot more to offer. But after you clean it out, then move up to heavyweight for the big fights, for the big money fights, and put some money in his bank account, and show everybody he can do it at heavyweight as well.
When you hear the arguments that, like, oh, he's only good because of all the PED stuff, and look, I don't know what the truth is. I'm just gonna say this. His fight IQ, to me, the tape appears to be conclusive that his fight IQ is through the roof. But when you hear those kinds of things, how do you respond to them?
Well, there's not much response, because if you already hate Jon, or if you already don't like him, if you're one of those haters, I'm not going to change anything. If you like Jon, you like Jon. So I've kind of given up on all that through experience. But I think that USADA needs to change their reference ranges, because we've been something that can't help you. I mean, something's going to show up in our environment that everybody touches. Who knows what Jon had done before in the past, as far as eating something the wrong time, touching somebody in the wrong way, who had given their dog some kind of hormones not to go and heat. I mean, I don't know. I'm talking through my butt right now, but it's just when things don't matter, why they even talked about. And that's kind of what I'm irritated about. He shouldn't have been suspended the first time, I believe, yet alone the second time. But of course, if you hate Jon, you're going to jump on it and make excuses. And at this point, there's nothing we can do about it, but just go forward and just keep dominating fights.
Coach, I got to tell you, I can't wait for March 2nd. Jon Jones is going to defend his title against Anthony Smith in Nevada. Best of luck at that event, and I'll be watching, and appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Enjoy the burrito.
I will.